best of my lungs and my voice, but lucky for you, I used to teach in school. And I used to do lunch duty for 400 kids at a time. So we're back again, and we're very glad to have Jon Wortmann back with us. I wanted to let you guys know a few different things that are going on as far as where we're going with this work. Because we did have the ability to have Jon meet with some folks today at the high school, different groups of people, and you might hear some colleagues talking about that and wondering, well, geez, how come that happened over there and it didn't happen for us? This is the beginning of something that we are working on for the entire district that's going to be more than just 1 year's worth of work. This is the beginning of us helping you become better teachers. This is professional development in a different way than us saying, okay, this is how you need to teach your kids about this new math style. So think about this as being the beginning of a journey, and you might have some things popping up as you read through the book, as you go through the activities today, maybe as you reflect back on what we did back in August, which seems like 2 years ago now. But as you start thinking about those things, if you have ideas, if there are things that you think you want, send them to us. Send them to your principals, send them to me. We're going to start putting together a list because we're going to start to see sort of groups of similar ideas and things that we need to work on collectively as a district so we can help support you and get you the training you need, because we've got a world-class presenter here, and he's here to share what he knows with all of us, and it's just sort of the beginning. Is we're planting that initial seed, and we're still sort of in that getting ready and just getting started component. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce to you again Jon Wortmann.
So let's open as if this is a regular classroom experience. And a show of hands, how many of you would be super excited if I made you do 10 minutes of breath shakes? I got one person. Do you remember breath shakes from last time? So in, out, triangle, to right. But show of hands, how many of you, if we did 10 minutes right now of breath shakes, I forced you to do 10 minutes, how many of you would be super duper excited? Small group, not bad. I got about maybe a fifth of the audience. That's what it is in your classroom when you force mindfulness on. Right? What we're working on as an SAU is to figure out how to actually introduce the kind of work we did last time that I hope you're working on personally over time into your own personal life, into the work you do as teams, into the work you do in the classroom, and the work you do with parents in a natural way. Nothing that we do together is another program. I promise there will never be an acronym. And if there's an acronym, one of the critiques of Hijack, the book, is that there's too many acronyms in there. Not my fault, it was Dr. Ford, it's the way he teaches. Everything that we're doing is about discovering who you are, how you are best, how you are most in your own body and do internal fitness so that you can love teaching and instruction happens in a way that's meaningful for you. So to start today, we have to do a review. Pull out your workbooks. Did you all get workbooks? And the reason it's so important that we do workbooks is because if you don't have the takeaways to either think about what you might do in the classroom or what you might do with kiddos, if you don't have the reminders, this stuff just disappears. So right now, where is your stress level? Who is at a 10 right now, coming in from the holidays, coming in from the bad traffic around the corner? Anybody at a 10 right now? Why are you at a 10? Because I am, right? And if you have someone at a 10, like, don't do what I just did. If you got someone who is, like, because we have a million reasons why we get there, but the fact that you were able to say it and identify over time that's going to reduce the stress level. Who's at a 9? Want to talk about why? It's been a really stressful 3 days, and whether it is work, whether it is home, this stuff is real. There are bears out in the world. Who's at an 8? Yep. Any reasons we can talk about?
We talked about PCYF.
Right. So some of the people just came from a conversation about youth and family services and about child abuse, and if you didn't get stressed out by that, and if it didn't have a long cascade, you weren't paying attention. Because some of the things we come into contact with around stress really change us. Who's at a 7? Who's at a 6? Who's at a 5? 4? So if you're at a 5 or a 4, good place for listening. Who's at a 3? So the problem with the 3 is we're leaning towards nap time. Who's at a 2? I'm going to lose you. Where are my couple 1s? Right, there he is. But we've established that you're Buddha and you've done the homework before and all's good. The reality is, we just opened up class with a quick exercise. I didn't make you do 10 hours of breath shapes. We just did measuring your stress level. By just doing an exercise like this at the beginning of class that the kids don't think is cheesy, if they think an exercise you do is cheesy, should you do it again? Probably not. Should you give up on what you're trying to do? No. Like, what we have to come up with is ways to actually take these buckets that we learned about last time in terms of your brain and in terms of your brain health, and then apply that more widely so that they can be more connected to their own inner life. We're trying to figure out ways to take care of our internal fitness. Have you heard that phrase before? If you see it online and you research internal fitness, what they mean is vitamins. What they mean is the stuff that's going to get your liver working right. And there's a kicker to your liver working right: drink less. Right? It's not a hard thing. You don't need to do the cleanses. What I mean by internal fitness is the part of you that you can't see, the part of you that creates emotion and ultimately feeling, the part of you that most of us don't do enough homework on. So, anybody remember what the short loop is? Shout it out, come on, be brave.
Bear.
What's that?
Bear.
The bear, right? So the bear comes and your amygdala, your alarm in your brain starts to fire, and it pulls every bad memory file out of your hippocampus, your memory center, that it can, to get you out of trouble. So if you're teaching in front of the class and one of the kids starts to pick on you, what memories are going to come up? Does that ever happen around here? Do the kids ever say things that they shouldn't say? Do they ever try and exert their... That doesn't happen in this district, does it? All our kids are completely respectful all the time, right? And their parents are even more respectful, correct? And what I'm channeling here is not anything unique about this SAU. This is going on everywhere. We have lost our minds culturally. And so you are one of the last bastions of true goodness. Don't let that go to your head. And actually letting people test out themselves, who they want to be, and then actually recorrect. Learn to actually get their alarms under control. The problem is when that kid or that parent comes at you, the time that, remember my story from last time, and the teacher saying that I was disorganized in front of the whole class, and everybody going, ooh, that feeling is going to get pulled out of your brain by your alarm. The time that you were on the first tee and you choked and embarrassed yourself in front of everybody. The time that you were on that date and it went the way some of those dates go, right? All of that is going to get pulled out and you're stuck on the short loop. Here's another thing I noticed in some of my small group meetings today. You know what's happening with our students sometimes? We unintentionally create an us and them relationship. Why do we do that? Someone shout it out. Why do somehow we get separated from our students? How are we suddenly not on the same team? Discipline, for sure, right? Because they've had bad days, some of them are homeless, they've got all sorts of struggles, and you have to somehow keep order. This isn't about you doing anything wrong. It just happens, and suddenly you get frustrated. What else happens? In addition to discipline, what else? They're little brains. Their brains haven't fully developed. Remember how the toddler screams? They're still mostly toddlers, just in big bodies. They haven't yet learned discernment, how to use their frontal lobes fully. Remember the hierarchy. When they are toddlers, they'll go for the cookies, but they're afraid of the black cat. When they're teenagers, they have all the capacity to think, but they don't know how to use it. They don't know how to control emotions like we do, most of the time. What else will cause it to be an us-them in our relationships with them? Nothing wrong with us that this happens. We just have to be honest today as we do values work, goals work, and commitment work, as we do deep memory file work, the stuff that lets us be our best in the face of the ugliness. What gets in the way around here?
Fear.
Fear of what?
Success. Failure.
Of success and failure. We'll have a private session later, right? But the reason is because, isn't it crazy? Like we have a bunch of good days with the kiddos and then we're afraid it's going to go away. We have a bunch of bad days and we don't think it's ever going to get better. And we don't know how to switch off of that short loop cycle. One more reason. Why does it get tough where it's us them? Right, you don't want to be buddies. We have to be the boundary stuff, you just heard about it, DFS, right? It's so hard. What's the level of relationship we're supposed to have when you guys are co-parenting? You heard that phrase recently, referred to the teaching world? Like, you're co-parenting. And that's not what you are supposed to do, though it's now part of the role. It's not what you're trained to do. What other roles are you playing right now? Forgive the long wind up here, but I want you to hear the context in which we're doing deep work on who you are and what you can switch to when things go bad. In addition to parent, what other roles do you play?
Nurse.
Referee. What else? Coach, for sure. What else? Counselor, psychologist. And how many of you are the actual psychologists or social workers around here, or counselors? Right? I've got about like 10. How many students do we have? 1,800, 10 counselors. The math doesn't work. Right? And you can't bring one coach in from the outside and suddenly fix this. All of you are in this new role. What other roles are you playing? Seamstress? Holy crap. Are you good at it? Because if you were, it's just tape. Because if you're good at it, I got some stuff I know. And then there's this other role that I realize in talking to the small groups today that you are playing, which is what today's workshop is entirely about. You're the believer. You are the person who is looking at these kids when no one else believes in them and says you're not done. You are the people who take the out groups and say it's possible for us to be in us. On your worst day, the day where you want to get up, the day where you're sick of them, you're the ones who say we can actually start over again. You just yelled at me in class in front of all the students. I still am not giving up on you. The problem is, how many times do you want to just yell at those students, teachers, Tom? Right? How many times do we have these short loop reactions? So remember, the short loop is where you're stuck, but you don't have to stay there. The first way you get off the short loop is to do the mindful work. The long loop is where all the interconnection of the neural networks are functioning well. And you get there by stepping back. So first warm-up exercise for today is turn to your partner, and I want you to list the options down at the bottom of the worksheet, and then we'll finish the intro. What are the options for mindfulness that we talked about last time? Things like breath shakes. Like, remind yourself what the option is on the first page. Options for mindfulness. Breath shakes is an example. Okay, that was a quick one. What are the options for mindfulness besides breath shakes? Counting. What else? Stepping back is the general definition of what mindful is. And by the way, it is incredibly mindful in the middle of a painful interaction with someone to just go. What did I just symbolize by doing that? I'm out of the middle of the chaos that you're creating. Don't you put that mess in front of me, because that's what it's like. That is literally a definition, and it is a way of being mindful. What else? Listening, right? The listening exercises, whether it's one sound, all the sounds. But by the way, when the kiddo comes into the room, just listening. Show of hands, be honest. Be honest. How many of you think your job is to fix them? The students. How many of you think your job is to get them to do what they should do? How many of you think your job is to get the right numbers? I heard today that in the high school, a third of our kiddos are going to go off to school, and then we're not really measuring based on SAT scores. When I work with other districts, sometimes it's all about the numbers. We have a different metric we're using. But how many of you are teaching to make sure that we get the right numbers? I'm asking not because there's anything wrong with that. I'm a metric-driven person. If I don't get hired back, I didn't do well enough. I can't make my golfers better, my executives better. I don't get brought back. I worked for a hedge fund. We were down this year. We don't get up. I don't get brought back. It's a reality of our work. But it cannot be the memory files we go to when we're mindful first. What else can we do to be mindful? Taste. Love it. What else? Look, right? And it's the look, like actually staring at something beautiful, your phone in the distance. I was up in North Conway yesterday. They got to look at the mountains for 20 seconds. Can you imagine how much better that would be than looking at this? The reality is that looking works, and when we do the quick ways in a second, it's the way you reset very fast. How else can you be mindful? Come up with ways that you came up with that weren't in the list last time. How can you be mindful for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 2 minutes at a time? Bullet journaling, absolutely love it. What else? Music. Please use music. Because you know what happens when you're singing at the top of your lungs? Everybody else leaves you in the fire truck alone. You actually get to express yourself, be yourself. I was teaching at community rowing in Boston, and I come in behind one of the students in my class, and he's got long hair, and he's going like this. And I'm like, he's in his car in front of me. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Is he having a fit? Is he having a seizure or something wrong? He's like, dude, I was rocking out. I was like, were you being mindful? He's like, yeah. And that's who you have to be. Don't let these moments pass you by. When you get home and you're cleaning up after your workout because you did your 10 minutes, get in the shower and holler. The kids will leave. What's wrong with mom? Have you seen the Peloton where the guy's singing Fiji, right? Like, kids like, I want nothing to do with you. You want freedom in your classroom? Start singing more often. What other mindful forms are there? Visualization. Please be able to see you on your best day. More on that at the end of the day. One or two more. Walking. Please walk regularly. Not just for what it does for your physical self, but because when you move slowly on purpose, or brisk walking, there's no bears. One more. Comedy. You know what the biggest tragedy in the world right now is? I can't just put Bill Cosby chocolate cake up there. Right? I'm not allowed to anymore. By the way, go watch it. It's one of the funniest things in the world. Go find the clips that you love and have them. One more, I heard someone else. Drawing. If we brought literal mindful drawing into every single one of our classrooms, we might not have to do any other mindful exercise. Because it lets the kids be healthy. Okay, now let's jump to that last question. What are the quick options at work? How do you use looking when suddenly someone pisses you off? Look away, right? How do you use counting when you're really stressed before a talk? Do you count to 100? We shrink it down and we count to 3. Well, do you remember the lemon example? Ladies, PGA golf expert, every time she would get stressed, she'd chew on a lemon. Anybody use peppermints in a stressful moment? Show of hands. Anybody chew on gum? Anybody keep chocolate on their desk for that reward when you eat it? All mindful moments. You can always get up and take a walk. And you can always do this. We've been here for about a half an hour. Everybody stand up. This is mindfulness. Why am I making you stand up? Because I'm making you smarter. The study found that if you sat for more than a half an hour, even as long as an hour, the blood pooled in your legs, and you know what happened? Cognitive breakdown. I just made it so you can listen, and also it's cold in here, right? So if you want to wiggle a little bit, that's okay. That'll also keep people away from you. Okay, you can sit down again. Now, this is what we worked on with the teams today, though. When we're talking about bringing mindfulness to the classroom, the one thing I want everybody to start experimenting with is getting the kids to take a break by standing up, if they haven't already, every half an hour. But do not put a rule in place, hey, you have to stand up every half an hour because this brain science guy came in and said we should. Don't mandate it as another rule. Don't say this is part of our mindfulness intervention program to make you smarter. Right? That's the way the language is. You're so much more interesting than that. The question is, how do we work with the kids to get a break every half an hour so they don't get stupid? Now, most of you are already doing this. Well, they're a little silly already, but the model that you're already teaching in terms of experiential learning has a lot of this in there. But if you just add breaks to the classroom, it's going to give us a foundation of how you can interact with them most effectively in the future. Which brings us to the 4 levels of the brain, because we've got to get them out of the reactive place. Spinal cord, peripheral nervous system, interneurons, stops you from getting burned. Brainstem, breath, heart rate, happens naturally, don't have to think about it. On the treadmill at the gym, see someone who's kind of hubba, that's the brainstem, right? That attractiveness comes from the brainstem. Then you've got the emotional brain, which is the reward center and the alarm center. That's what we worked on last time with the alarm center. What we're about to work on today is how to use your frontal lobes, the highest level of the brain, to choose what memory files you want to use so the alarm's not choosing for you. You have the power in every moment to do what I call quick switching and do the mindful work we did before. And literally, if you built the portfolio, switch to the most important memory files in your life, and the rest of the world is no longer beating you up. The people who used to drive you crazy, that's our next workshop in a couple months, is how do you communicate better with the people who drive you crazy. All the burnout recovery work in the world isn't as important as you having values, goals, and commitments that you absolutely believe in so that you can believe in your kiddos. What brain health habit did you add to your life so you'd show up at school a little better off since we met last? Turn to your partner. Tell your partner what you added, if anything. Did you do time blocks? Did you do mindfulness? Did you do meditation? Did you do exercise? What'd you do? The fact that you're talking about that with such enthusiasm, I hope you weren't just talking about drinking bourbon, right? Well, maybe one person, right? Okay. So like, shout out a couple of things you did. What's that? The calm app, right? Actually doing regular meditative time. Stepping back and breathing on a regular basis. By the way, as I told you last time, I have social anxiety. I'm afraid of public speaking. I've done this 3,000 times. It's the hardest thing for me to do in the world. Do I look nervous right now? Because someone just said yes. What? Is it like it's the bad one? What is it? The reality, you triggered my alarm. The reality is that I had to do so many breathing exercises after yesterday's event, before today's event, before the event tomorrow. It's my life. But do you ever feel like that sometimes with dealing with the kids and the number of issues that keep showing up? Like the stuff that I'm teaching you, I'm doing every day myself to be able to wake up and be okay without bourbon in volume. Right? Like the twist is we have to have our things. What else did you do? Exercise. What'd you add? Which kind? Just walking and running. Awesome. What else? Getting off the phone. Some kind of smartphone break. Literally, I was having trouble going to sleep last night, and I wondered as my phone and my iPad, double alarm so I'd wake up in time, kept firing. What the hell? I literally turned to myself and said, Self, you teach this stuff. What's wrong with you? But the twist is, we have to all be reminded of it, and we have to do it. More on that in a second. What else did you do? Leave early. Yes. Tom, is Tom here yet? Where is he? Oh, he did show up. There he is. Okay, good.
It stressed me out.
I was like, Tom's not even here yet. So if he's not here, you can leave early. You can leave all right now. We'll just wait for him. Earlier. No, but here's the studies on how much you're supposed to work. They did it in Australia. They did it with a tech team, and they were more productive with 6 hours of work than anything else. Right? Now, we know that when we think about your kids, this is kind of crazy stuff that Tom has authorized me to bring to you, is that we think about how we do the classroom time, which is already so well structured. You're already doing amazing things, such that it is more mindful. We can't add a mindful program to fix everything. We can offer people options, we can do trainings, we can give skills. We have to get into a situation where the kiddos have some empowerment to prove that they can be productive and show us how they're going to be more productive. I got to work with the women's basketball team today, and when we asked them to come up with their version of what their attitude was going to be, we changed a little their structure based on the stuff we did last time. They didn't have an attitude answer immediately. What their attitude should be, they didn't know. And I started to push them, and a couple of them got alarmed, and then they got mad at me that I was pushing their friend. Sound familiar? And then I said, well, who's the captains? You guys go figure it out, and I look forward to hearing about it next time. And now Coach has a model. We want to do mindfulness in everything we do, not as a program. What else did you add?
Leave schoolwork at school.
You have to. Because if you're thinking about it at home, you know what's happening at school? Nothing. They're not here. There may be a janitor cleaning. But if you don't have your time to be able to work on your stuff, how are you going to come back and be productive for those 30 a week, 60 in total at its best? How many of you work less than 30 hours? Right? One person put their hand up. I'm like, good for you. But we can't. That's not our modern world. We can, however, be more intentional. Now, was talking to Brian about his. Brian, what's your core value in the world? No, it's your goal. What's your goal?
Efficiency.
He wants everything to be efficient. Well, that's good, except when efficiency then makes it easier for us to work more, to do more, to always be on it. And that's what technology has done. So you've got to have these mindful. Well, that's another conversation for a small group team meeting. So 1 or 2 more places where you're going to be doing more new brain health ads. Tom, what did you do?
I really worked hard to do yoga 10 minutes every 2 days.
10 minutes. But the way that changes the system is our next point. So the definition of mindfulness I gave you last time, and if you don't have it written down, it's just stepping back. Remember that mindfulness is just stepping back. Why is it so important for emotional and thoughts that get dangerous? Is when you're stuck on the short loop, all the craziness stays in your head and it beats you up and it doesn't go away. Be honest. Show of hands. How many of you suffer from monkey brain? Monkey brain is defined as all the thoughts that won't stop and they beat you up. They're all alarm thoughts, feelings, and they just won't go away. It's because you're good people. Now remember, those of you who didn't put your hands up, it's because you have tiny little alarms, and remember, size matters. So because your alarms, you don't get as worked up, but a bunch of us, that's just the way we're made. So we have to actually change our behaviors. Did you know that your brain is plastic? Turn the page to Act 2. Did you know that your brain is plastic? Anybody know what that means? What does it mean? It is flexible, it changes, and at any point in time, your brain can be different. That's what we started with these habits to try and make your personal internal fitness better. What does your brain want to do when faced with challenge, new experiences, or change? Run. Full stop. So if there is change going on in your life, none of that happening here, then you suddenly deal with an alarm reaction. Now, change happens at an external level too. I was teaching this in an HR department recently, and literally at this fairly intimate table, a little feather floated across the table. And the woman who was talking, I swear to God, she did this. Oh yeah, so what I deal with when I get to an 8 is that I'm kind of stressed out and I don't really feel good and it's happening because I don't. And then she came back and she kept talking. 30 minutes later, I said, did you notice the feather? She said, what feather? She didn't recognize that her entire mindset, her entire external world had changed as this feather floated by her. Does that sound familiar to some of your students? The brain is made to keep you safe. It is looking out externally for anything that could be danger. The twist is it doesn't know how to do that internally. And so your processes are based on avoiding trouble, full stop. Doing what's easiest, full stop. And those are brain patterns, and they have become Play-Doh that has been cooked. Gross. But they are absolutely clay that has been fired. The twist is you can soften the clay again. That is the magic of neural pathways. You can actually make them different. The twist is you have to be really good at stepping back, knowing how to get your brain back online, and you have to have these 3 core memory files. Your values, your goals, and your commitments. Turn to your partner and define what each of those are. What, based on your, and I'll give you the math after that. What is a value, what is a goal, what is a commitment? 1 sentence or 3 or 4 word definition. Come up with a definition. Go. All right, come on back. What is a value in a few words?
Long term.
Long term, for sure. Absolutely right. And what is it? Personal belief, absolutely, can have both of those components. And what is it? Those are right. How important? By the way, both of those answers are totally correct, and they're the components of this thing, like that is important to you. How important? How super? That's it. Your value, I never had that as a definition before. Your value is it. The mostest important thing ever. Do we live by that stuff most of the time? If you're healthy and you're not on the short loop. But when I was working in 2 different faith communities back when I was in my early 30s, and my grandmother, my person, 97 years old, passed away, the family did a service on the cake for her at her cake place. And I said, no problem, I'll be there by 1 o'clock. I just got to do my 2 services first. Sound familiar? Who does that? If my mother and father died, we're not recording the show. If they passed away right now, by the way, I'd say, I'll get to that in a minute, I've got to talk to them. I love them, but they're a pain in the butt. Some of you are like, yeah. Other people are going, you're cruel. Look, it's about value systems. We'll talk about that in a bit. This was my person. I teased my parents to emphasize that this was the human being who made me who I am, who I love more than anything in the world. And I put work first. Because when I got to the Cape, they'd already done the service, because I was 20 minutes late. Yeah, my parents are jerks. But they love me, my parents, more than anything in the world. And they didn't mean to do it on purpose. Do you see how their value system competed with my value system? And doing things on time and me prioritizing my work, which they did for their whole careers, over family. You see the mess here? We're going to sort that out today. Values are what is most important. What is the goal? What do you want to achieve? It's where we're going. It's directional. It's this thing that is out in the future. It is the horizon. Now, when you identify your goals, the problem is they're never going to be synthetic. They're never going to be easily arranged, and they're always going to compete. Values become issues with people. Goals become issues in terms of your daily life because I want to have fun as a goal competes very much with I want to lose 20 pounds. Unless your fun is marathon. Right? So these things compete. What is a commitment? Now this is the
Promise to yourself.
promise. Man, I hope you mean that. Because if it's a promise to yourself, do we break promises? All the time. But the twist is, if it's really a promise to self, we're going to fulfill it. What else is the definition? That's a great one. Expectation. We're doing this. But you hear the difference in the files? And in our world, what is really happening in our classrooms and with our parents and in our daily schedules is that we're in a competition for core memory files. So the reason these three files matter is because they are the center of your memory. Remember, you got the frontal lobes that let you think, the alarm and the reward system that keep you safe, and you got the hippocampus with the memory. It captures everything you see and do, and it has specific files that you can use either actively, daily memory, or they are in deep, dark, cold storage. So right now, where is your toothbrush? You know where it is, right? What'd you wear to school the first day when you were 5? Anybody can tell me? Can anybody tell me?
Uniform.
A uniform, right? And the reason that they have those uniforms is because it is a core value. We all look the same. We are a team. It's part of our men or women taking care of others' mantras. That's the way. They actually put a value within their system, and it made what you were wearing sticky, and it made it a memory you could get to quickly. I have no idea, but I do remember, maybe I told this story before, but it's important. On the first day of school, when Ryan Holzhauer was the first guy on the bus, he was sitting in the front seat, to my left. Imagine me walking on the bus, and I tried to sit next to him, and he said, "You can't sit there." And so I, first day of school, went to the back of the bus. And all the work I'm doing with you around values and goals and commitments is because I have more stories of ugly crap in my history that I'm no longer running away from. But that doesn't mean I'm broken. It means I'm using those stories to try and develop new systems, new ways, new hopes to actually make people better. And the kicker is, you've got all the ugly memory files like Ryan in the back of your head. By the way, there's a sweet end of the story. We then became youth group buddies at church, best of friends, went on mission trips together, and, all ended well. But why did it end well? Because we were in a faith community where love your neighbor and forgiveness was the center of it. Notice the values, notice the goals. You've got to have these memory files absolutely accessible because you're going to run into situations that are painful. 2 ancient theologians from the early 20th century. A guy named Paul Tillich and a guy named Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Heard of them? Dietrich Bonhoeffer is the fellow who was one of the people who was accused of murdering or creating the plot to murder Hitler. Paul Tillich is one of the most famous theologians in the world, philosophical thinking about meaning. And he wrote a book called Courage to Be that talked about overcoming anxiety. Now, what's interesting is that these two were facing in 1943, in the beginning of the war, very specific choices that affected their values, their goals, and their commitments. Tillich was invited to New York to escape Nazism and to teach at Union, and he left. Bonhoeffer was given the same invitations, and he stayed. Tillich lived a long career and wrote books because of him leaving. Bonhoeffer wrote his letters from a concentration camp and was hung. Who had the happier life? Who was more impactful? Who did the right thing? The reality is that they both did, they both had impact, and they both were significant as you are every day in the lives of your kids and of your families and of this community, if your values are right. So, what was Tillich's value? Remember, he was talking about anxiety in a book called The Courage to Be. What was his value? Self-preservation. Dead right. And it was how you internally build the fitness to do that. And by the way, when given the chance to leave, he gone. What was Bonhoeffer's value? Integrity. What else? Justice. Right? That was his thing. What was Bonhoeffer's goal? He could have left. End Hitler. What was Tillich's goal? To continue to write about the future, to continue to try and take this experience and translate it. Is one of these guys better than the other? Different values, different goals. What were their commitments? One decided to live, one decided to die. That's right. Just in different ways, and both valuable. What I hope you hear me expressing in this case study of two wise thinkers of our past is that they had different values, goals, and commitments. They were equally meaningful, and because they knew them, they both lived lives that changed the universe. And every one of your kiddos needs you to have a set of values, goals, and commitments that lets them know that you believe in. With that start, take 5 minutes. I know it's going to be 10. But take a 5-minute break, go get a bio break, go get a little sip of water. Come on back after 5, and then we're going to sort out your values, your goals, and your commitments, and give you a few tips to quick switch into the new year. So here's a mindfulness exercise. What is a cow with 2 legs? Lean beef. What is a cow with no legs? Grumpy. If you start use just the silliest little jokes. So I learned them from this white river rafting guide where we were about to do class 6 rapids. Anybody know what a class 6 rapid is? Death. Like literally you go off the boat, you get caught in a wormhole, you're off into another universe. Like it's that scary. And so he got us focused by telling these jokes on the bus, and he said, I'm going to give you instructions that are scary, but they're here to protect you, not to scare you, and I tell you these jokes so you're actually paying attention. Joke, instruction, joke, instruction. And so you may not be the cheesy, corny joke guy, or gal, but what is your thing that actually brings them back to attention? We don't need to do a mindfulness exercise, though we need to eventually find ways to do that strategically too. We don't have to do an emotional coping technique or another, though we're going to be doing that too. We got to find these natural ways that are normal to you. Here's another way, and we're going to open with it. And by the way, I'm going to get you out here 10 minutes early. How does that sound? See what I just did? I'm going to get better attention, I'm going to get better engagement, right? Because you're ready to go. And you hold me to that. By the way, if I forget to give you a break in 25 minutes to stand up real quick, someone remind me. But if I did that in the classroom, what's the problem with that? If I said, hey kids, someone remind me. Nobody's going to remind me, or they're only paying attention to their watch. Right? So it's like you've got to find ways that are going to be natural to the attention span of your kiddos. So here's the next method. So here's a case study. You are offered a grant to teach wherever you want in the world. You can stay here or go, it's up to you. Patty, work hard. Or you can go see your child, or child that will be in the future, imagine, play at Carnegie Hall. The scenario is that you have to go to California to get the grant. $10 million. Guaranteed. You are so talented as a teacher, it's not even a question of whether you're going to get it. They've said it's yours. It's all but assured. However, you have to go to California on this date, and the meeting is at 7 p.m. And at 4 p.m. on that same day in New York City, around 59th, in a particular hall named after a generous patron, who was a jerk, by the way. Talented, but a jerk. Though his castle in Scotland is really gorgeous. He had good taste. And by the way, he took his daughter away from America because everything was so stressful and put her in this castle because he wanted her to have a normal childhood. Mindfulness, but creepy. So, which would you choose? To go and get $10 million to be a teacher, anywhere you want, or you can be a coach too. $10 million, guaranteed, or do you go to Carnegie Hall? Turn to your partner, which one did you choose? Go. So before you answer, why is what we just did mindfulness? Made you stop and go, right? So you had that guttural reaction of, that's a good question, right? If you ask a good question in your class and you make them then discuss it, experiential learning, it is what we're about to teach, which is called quick switching. Step back and then switch to what's most important to you. This is a literal example of that. Step back, think about the question, and then answer what's most important to you. This is a value-based question, similar to should I have gone to church or gone to my grandma's funeral on time? And it really matters. Show of hands, how many of you are taking the money? Interesting. How many of you, now wait until we hear the reasons why people think this is so much fun. How many of you are going to Carnegie? Half and half. By the way, what's really fun about this environment is that you are kid people. Like you take care of youth and you're half and half. When I do this with corporate executives making literally millions, like they're already making the money. By the way, I raised the number to 50 million. I have to raise. I used to do $1 million, and people are like, that's not enough. I know! I'm like, really? Because by the way, if I had a child and you offered me $500,000, I would have taken the money. When I go to cocktail parties, do this, I now ask, when they've had 2 martinis, do you still want your children? Do you know the percentage of people that say no? Close to 80%. Loose study. But the reason that they say that is not that they're trolling, it's because kids are work. And what you're getting into here is the complexity of value. Money or the kids. This is not actually a question about money or the kids. It has so many other layers to it. So give me the reasons as to why you would pick the money. Don't have any kids. But if you had kids, right? I don't have kids either, but I would still take the money. Like you put yourself, if you had kids, why would you take the money? Dad can go for the other, right? You can absolutely have the totally fair rationale, and it's based on your value system that we're going to divide and conquer. Who took the money? Give me. You can give them a better life, right? And by the way, all these values, some of you are judging the person who said the other dad can go, and some of you are judging you'll give them a better life. What do you mean you're going to miss a once-in-a-lifetime experience and they're going to judge you forever and ever? Why'd you shake your head? If they're that good, they'll be back. All of these, yes.
Carnegie Hall only costs $50,000 to rent out.
Carnegie Hall only, and my favorite answer, Carnegie Hall only costs $50,000 to rent out. Because by the way, the $10 million, we got it covered. My favorite response these days, the favorite hedge, and then I'll come back to the corporate folks. My favorite hedge is, well, I'll do it by FaceTime. Just so you know, unless you're in the hospital and can't move, that doesn't count. Right? What you're really deciding is which is more important, the future of my career and my family's financial stability, or this one moment in time that my child will remember forever. That is what the choice is. And when I'm dealing with corporate people, they almost universally choose the kid. You know why? They already chose the money. And they hate it. Do you know how much therapy we need as caretakers? Do you know how much therapy people need who have already compromised their true values? And so what I'm giving you support on today is to actually define what your values are so you can make sure they're right. If I can go backwards, I go to my grandma's funeral. Instead, it's an example in my life where one of my values is I'm always learning. Carol Dweck mindset, not fixed, trying to get better. And so it's okay. I'm always experimenting and learning. I goofed. Does Graham forgive me? Yes. She was a Quaker. I couldn't do anything wrong. And by the way, she was already dead. Right? That's the thing. But what I missed was this family moment. I chose work over family. I would never do that. Well, maybe with my parents. But the twist is, you're allowed to laugh at my jokes about my parents. Please start laughing about my jokes about my parents. You have to right now look at the word cloud on the next page. It is in here. Yes, there it is. So these are examples of what's most important values. And they come from acceptance and commitment therapy value cards, and they come from the leadership challenge value cards. And the way that exercise works is you get a bunch of cards and you divide it up into always, sometimes, maybe, never. And you sort what your values are. This word cloud is just for you to look at if you need inspiration, because that's not what we're doing. We're not doing values like just honesty or integrity, though those matter. I'm trying to create memory files with you about what's so important that when the kid is yelling at you, the parent is insulting you, you have to choose between family and work, you have a memory file to do a breath triangle and switch to. So that when you're breaking down as we deal with changes here over the next 6 to 8 months, you're like, but this is why it's going to be okay. Because you're all here because you're great teachers. And the twist is you have strength that you can use to continue to take care of your core values in every moment. But you have to identify them and have a portfolio. So turn the page. List 3 values right now, either off that sheet, little personal homework, or that you can just come up with that are most important to you. So if I were to fill out the list, my first value is 8 billion brains. Remember that? I'm after all of you. Now, my goal, jumping forward a little bit, is I try to get 1 brain per talk. Because I usually can pull that off. Right? It's a manageable goal. But my value is I want 8 billion brains. It's not a goal, it's a value. My second value is Jen. Jen is Dr. Wortmann, the smart one in the family. She's the one who I learned all this from and translated for audiences. She is the PhD doctor. The twist is if Dr. Wortmann's okay, I'm okay. You know why? Because we fit. And we have a partnership. By the way, do we like each other all the time? Do we fight? Wait until the next workshop, which is on communication tendencies and how you deal with trust and build it. She's the case study. Because we are the most opposite of everything. But she's my core value. So when I'm thinking about decision making, who am I going to see next after this when I've been gone for 2 nights? Her. I had a business opportunity that probably would have produced money. I had the opportunity to go run and do exercise and sports with friends. I absolutely have lots of things that I like. She's first. Number 2. Number 3 is a weird one for a guy who used to work in church and doesn't anymore. Community. It's the thing that I don't have in my life as much right now. Oh wait, where am I standing? In a group of people that can be a new community. But know that just because I have these values doesn't mean I'm living them out. So right now I want you to identify something similar for yourself. And we'll push them a little bit. Like, what are the 3 most important things to you? You personally. This isn't work. This isn't home. This is life. Like your stuff. Write them down. I'll give you a couple minutes. They may not come instantly. There's nothing wrong with you if they don't. Oh wait, this is the way technology is actually valuable. There's a text message, because I'm on your Wi-Fi, that just showed up. It's from Jen. And it says, can't wait till you're home, the sooner the better. That's my wife, not my girlfriend. That's not my, no, I'm sorry, I should have clarified. Yes, my wife, 15 years, still working on it. Right? But that's, if you got your values clear, that's what it looks like. She doesn't know that you just became a case study early. But like, what you're looking for is something that is that true, that keeps repeating itself and is good. And so whatever you pick, the money or the kiddo, it's got to be you. A memory file you can turn to. By the way, we just built another one. What are your 3 core values, you? And if you've got questions as you're trying to discern it, other people will probably have the same questions, so don't be afraid to ask. This is what is most important to you. Most important. So who's having a hard time with it? So this is an introduction. This is not a master class. This is not a test. So when I did this with 8 town managers in Massachusetts, and I gave them 2 hours just to do values work alone, they could not get their answers clear after 2 hours. They represent 250,000 folks in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The reason is because this shiitake is hard. When I started this core values work, I thought that what was most important to me is to treat the world as a test kitchen. Meaning, as I was working in churches and school districts and corporations, it was a place of learning. If this is a test kitchen, what are you? Burnt pies. Right? That doesn't work. And then I was like, the world is my lab, right? Like that's how I'm gonna treat difficult moments. I'll show you how you quick switch to the value in a second and how it works. But what's the problem with the lab? That makes you guinea pigs. And it was only as I went deeper and deeper into the value work that I found the core files that when I can't sleep at night, I can remind myself that's why my alarm is on. When someone's yelling at me or the change is too hard, I can switch to it knowing that that file is more important to me than the discomfort. I'll give you the science on it in a second. Have you already shared your values with the person next to you? Most of you have. So someone shout out their core values. Give me one. What'd you say? Your dog? What's your dog's name? Grease, right? Right? Like, is it okay for people to be our core values? Animals? Yes! Like, my dad cried more over Ralphie, his dog, dying than all 3 grandparents that died in 29 days. It was this traumatic experience. That didn't make him cry. The dog made him cry. Like, your values are your values. What you love is what you love. Grease, give me another example.
Val.
What is it?
Val. That's my girlfriend's nickname.
Yes!
From Beauty and the Beast.
From Beauty and the Beast. I love it. Right? It's this person, right? What else?
Jesus.
Jesus, right? Your spiritual background and the thing that's most important to you. You don't have to be afraid to say it. It's a safe environment. We're in training time. Who has family? Show of hands.
Why?
Right? So here's the thing. All of you who put family, including the principal and his wife, cute couple in the front row, you're lying. What? Because you don't mean, as I'm teasing my parents, you don't mean Uncle Bob or Aunt Susan who drive you nuts. Immediate family, right? Now we're getting closer. When you say family, which by the way is the #1 answer, you have to be specific about family. You have to be specific about what it is that you actually value. So if you wrote family, someone give me more specific as an answer. Living family, I like that, right? Because in certain cultures, you know what? It would be the dead family. In certain cultures, it's your ancestors. So it varies place to place. But what about, what's your name? Michelle, can I pick on you a little bit?
Yes.
Lovely. What about your living family? What about them? What do you care about? Did you say money or the kid? Said the money, right? So what is about this? Because if it was really about the family, then you would go to, so what do you mean about the family? But that's good, right? It's the love experience. But what about when they're mean to you? What about when they disappoint you? Okay, what about the moment when they do? Hear what you just said? The moment when they do. I said, what about when they disappoint you? But they're my best friend. What about when it's bad? It's okay. Your value has to be something that I can push at so hard, and it holds up to the trauma of life. You know what your kiddos don't have most of the time in your classroom? Clear values. Because you know where they don't go anymore? Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, church, synagogue, mosque, the public square. You know where they don't even go anymore? The Moose Lodge. The Moose Lodge had an ethical system that you followed, and it wasn't just the beer. They had an actual system of how you were supposed to believe. We don't have this anymore. Guess who are the new priests and imams and rabbis? TikTok, yes, true. You're looking at them. In society, it's also our comedians, but how well have they done for us over the last 2 years? Right? The people who are the public square speakers of truth, it's you. You get them for periods of time in which you can invite them to really consider what's most important. And the value is the thing that holds up under pressure and you don't crack. But it has to be true. Now your homework assignment is to go and find, if you didn't get these 3, find these 3 memory files. And the next 3 are the ones that are most important to you as a leader. Because those are the ones that you do at work. If I was going to ask what's most important to you, by the way, are you all leaders? Who doesn't think they're a leader? Anybody? Because I'll call you up on stage. Right? Oh, you want to be called up on stage? No. But the reason I'll call you up on stage is because every single person here is leading something. You're leading a classroom. You're leading an initiative in the school. If you're the person who's doing the floors, you're making sure that this place is pristine so kids can only worry about learning and not slip and fall. That's still leadership. Your leaders are not just your administration. They're not just your heads of student council. Every single human being is taking something from point A to point Z and getting it done in a way that people actually want to be there. But you have to have those values that drive you. Someone give me a leadership value example. Communicate. Yes. Where would you go to in this district if communication is not happening well? Right? It's a good question, right? That's what we'll be handling next time. The answer is fill up your principal and your administrator's inboxes or create a special inbox for the things we want to work on here in terms of communication. By the way, did I say complaint box? What's your name again? Michelle was just like, oh, don't do that. That's terrible. Everyone's going to start. No, if our value systems are right, we can take all of the challenges to our values and come up with a way to make it work. You're correct. Please don't do that. It's going to, fill up the inbox. The twist is be ready to take your values to the test and then be able to actually have constructive conversations. Communication, what's another leadership value? Integrity. Diversity. What was it? Honesty. Inclusion. Now, this is a really interesting challenge about values. Is diversity or equity and inclusion a better value system? It's one of the conversations that's going on in the world right now. City of Cambridge, Massachusetts doesn't do diversity anymore. One of the diversities in the country. They do inclusion. They're doing equity. That doesn't mean they don't want diversity. But it's, as we've talked about diversity is not wrong. Diversity is wonderful and it's part of the system. But what do you do with it? Right? Here how I'm challenging the value. I'm not saying the value is wrong, but you have to have these values. Then we get to the last one, which is what are the most important ones in the district? This is your team assignment. So I want you to go do a team assignment with whether you're the freshman team leads, whether you've got the folks who are working with sports, whether you're doing the musicians group, like whatever your particular teams are. I want you to come up with what you think are the 3 core values for this district. Yes, sir.
You have the first grade team, second grade team, third grade team, eighth grade, like the new teams for next year.
New teams for next year. Love the assignment. So and we will clarify this assignment after because this is a bit of improv. But I want you to make sure that you as teams, what are your values? So you want to come up with your personal ones and the ones as a leader that are going to hold up. But here's the way it works. Turn to your partner. What would you say in your next one-to-one to the person who is a master manipulator? So let me tell you what that looks like if you don't know. The person comes into your office and says, hey, so I saw that you were working with that student. Why don't you work with me? Like that. And you say, oh, you can have time anytime you need. Like, I'm here to support you. Well, you really didn't support me last week when I was having that fight with Kenny. Well, the thing about that fight with Kenny is I didn't see it until after, and I totally want to help you, and I can, work with you guys together or get your resources. Yeah, see, the last time you got me resources, they really weren't very helpful. Have you met people like this? So that's a master manipulator. There's nothing you can say on the spectrum. It could be called borderline personality disorder. Like, they're going to never stop pushing. Your leadership values, your personal values, our values as a district have to be so strong that we can still believe in that person. Remember the beginning of this talk today. I want us to figure out how we believe in every kid, pure inclusion, every teacher, every single one. That's a belief system. That is a value. It may not be right for you, and we'll figure that out. But the twist is, what would you say to the person? Go. Turn to your partner. Oh, wait! Is it time? Everybody stand up. The bionic man just reminded us. Why are we standing up? Because we just got smarter. These are the kind of mindful goals we got to put there, or their mindful values. Or wait, you're better than that. They're out for every file. So while you're still standing, watch this. You're still standing, but we're still working. Someone say what you would say to the master manipulator. I hear you. Right? Brilliant open. What else would you say? That's unfortunate. Right? Like that sucks. And the only times you may have to say that 17th, but wait them out. Don't you dare let your values be compromised. If you're a communicator, you're going to keep going. Now, by the way, you're going to need a little extra help. And Bourbon, again, like at off hours, you're not going to be able to always have enough brain health to pull this off. But the twist is, you can wait them out. Give me another thing you can say.
Knock it off.
Knock it off. Remember, Ronald Reagan, it's not a political story, at the end of the 80 election, he's in one of the big Astrodomes in Houston, and literally he's being heckled, and it's hot, the air conditioning wasn't working, and the lights were flickering, and he just says to the guy in front of 40,000 people, knock it off. Won the election. Because he was showing leadership. At some point, you have to say, stop. But did I say, you're a jerk and I hate working with you? Did you say, there's something wrong with you? Right? Did you say, I don't want to ever be part of your team? No, you said, stop. You're allowed, you are not punching bags. That's a goal, a value, and a commitment. Have a seat. What else would you say? Playful. Get playful and comedic. Have we met? Now, what's the value system with happy men? Humor, right? What's the value system with stop? Knock it off. Humor and boundaries, right? What's the value system with I hear you? Communication and compassion. By the way, is empathy a good value? No. Compassion empathy is a skill. Empathy is exhausting. If you take on everybody else's problems and you want to fix it, you're going to have to start paying by the hour. You can't afford it. The twist is you have to have compassion is the value, and that's what I agree with. What was the last one that we said? That's unfortunate. What's the value behind that? Validation, right? Attention. And the twist is you have to do the homework assignment here so that if I come back, that we will actually have these filled out. So this workbook that I'm giving you today, we're not able to go through it all because I wanted you to see what memory files are out there, but you have to go through the sorting. We don't have time. So when I come back, I want your 3 values for you, 3 values for leadership, 3 values for the district, and I want you to have done it with your teams, and we'll send out that assignment. And I want you to start testing, can you, when that person is in front of you, do an office step back, look away, pause, breathe. Wouldn't it be funny if you put the lemon in your mouth before you talk to them? Right? But you can certainly undo a lollipop and have a lick. And then you switch to your value. And you spoke out of your value. That's a quick switch. Turn the page to goals. So right now, name 3 personal goals. Do it fast. Don't think hard about it. You have time later. Like 3 goals. Like I want to do a rowing marathon this year. I want to beat Goldfelder in golf. I want to actually lose, like whatever it is, like give me 3 goals for you personally. Don't think about them because then you're going to have alarm, like just what do you want in your life right now? I want more money, whatever it is, just 3 goals. Everybody got 3 already? Everybody got 1. Right, so you come up with 1 pretty quickly. But then if I say come up with your 3 professional goals, not now, it's homework. The reason this is all homework is because if you don't do this thoughtfully, it's not real. The reason that I'm emphasizing how hard this is and the fact that I gave you so much to do is because if you haven't done this personal reflection, you cannot handle change because you're working the wrong memory files. You're working all the short loop, all the alarm stuff. This is the long loop stuff, which takes time. You know where you can develop your goals? With that, what's your special someone's name?
Bell.
Bell, you and Bell can sit and have a cup of coffee or tea or favorite adult beverage, if that works for you, and you can, and you talk about this. Because you know what? Netflix is not the only form of entertainment in the world. There's this thing called, but it's pretty good, but there's this thing called communication that you've got colleagues here who would love to have this conversation over lunch rather than complaining about the teacher in the classroom next door. There is absolutely time in the lunchroom, in the break room, taking a walk around the track. You can multitask and you can do some reflection and you get your 10 minutes. So the problem with this is, remember your next exercise there, prioritize your top 3. Goals conflict. So if my goal is I want to get my PhD or my master's or complete my undergrad, and my second goal is to spend more time with the family, you see the problem? So you have to create your goals, and then you have to prioritize them because they matter deeply. They are your core memory files. They're what you switch to. But you can't switch to them unless they actually are believable. Your alarm in your brain will stop you from living out your goals if they are not absolutely true to you. So I told you I want to do a rowing marathon. That means 3+ hours on one of those damn ergs, 42,000 meters. You know what I get to do when I go home tonight? The rowing machine. Do I want to do that? No, this is work. You people are work, right? But because it is a goal, it is a real memory file. And what will I do? Get in the door, take a deep breath, a couple of triangles, strap on the shoes, and get on the machine. Because I can switch to that memory file. But what did I do before I lived out the goal? I talked to Jen. What's that? I have to see Jen exactly. And then kiss wife, step back moment. Don't do that at school, unless you're married to principal. And then you switch to the thing you're doing. You have to be constantly doing the mindful step backs throughout your day. You want to actually actualize this memory file? You want to pull this memory file out? Is it going to happen when someone's yelling at you? Is it going to happen when you're on the short loop? Is it going to happen under crisis? It only happens when the memory files are clear and you get mindful first. So, 2 little bits about goals. If you really want to achieve them, this was done with long-distance athletes in the studies, they have to have a process, performance, and outcome component. What is an outcome component? It's a number. It's a result, right? So I want to lose 10 pounds. If your goal is to lose 10 pounds, are you going to pull it off? Only if you're deeply committed. Next thing, you jumped ahead, well done. But probably not. Because the reality is, it's going to become an alarm thought. Oh my God, I went up on the scale. Oh my God, I'm not good enough, I ate the cheeseburger. Like, that's an alarm goal. And the difference between optimal and alarm goals is optimal goals excite you. Now, when I say 42,000 meters on a rower, who thinks I'm stupid? Be honest. Right? It's a crazy goal, but for me, it's optimal. But I had this strange dream at the New Year's that instead of making a New Year's resolution, I was going to commit to doing 2,020 miles on the rower, 2,020 miles on the bike, and 2,020 miles running and walking this year. That's an average of 5.5 miles on each machine per day. Is it possible? Yes. Scared the crap out of me. So instead, I dropped it back, and the bike one's easy for me. Like, I'm just doing the Roman Marathon. Next year, we'll see about 2:21 times 3, right? But the alarm goal is the one that freaks you out. That's not the right goal. You have to have goals that when you look at them, they actually inspire you, so that when you take a deep breath and switch to thinking about it, you get your mojo back. The quick switching that we're going to close with today is being able to step back and switch to the thing that is most important to you, the deep memory file, value, goal, or commitment. But it also has to have a performance side to it, like what you're going to be doing. So I'm going to be rowing at a particular rate today. And it has to have a process side, which for rowing is just put shoes on, get on machine, put on headset, do it over and over again. You have to have the multiple parts of the goal. So if I'm trying to lose 10 pounds, what's the performance side? Exercising, absolutely. What else? Eat vegetables, right? You can still have cheeseburgers, but you got to add your vegetables. It's actually the things you do that are going to get you there. You have to define them. You have to put the plan of the memory files together. And what's the process side for losing weight? Weigh-ins every week. Support group to help you do it. Coach to help you do it. If you create a goal, it's not real until it's optimal, until you actually create a plan around it that's real. Turn the page. A commitment is I'm going to do it no matter what. And here's how this works. I did not know these research studies. I found them the other day and I went, holy crap, this is good. They did a study of people coming into a hotel and they said, are you environmentally friendly? And if they were, they gave them a little pin and said, we want you to hang up your towels. And the people who wore the pins hung up their towels 25% more of the time. Imagine how you use that as a mindful move in your classroom to get commitment. Like, just give the kid the pin and they're going to study more. Give the kid some special emblem, special little totem, and it changes everything, but it gets better. If you have kids sign something about their commitments ahead of time, they are more likely to do their homework. It gets better than that. If you actually just ask them to commit verbally, just to say, I will turn my homework assignments in on time, they did more often. Show of hands, how many of you asked your kids to turn their homework assignments in on time? Right? Because we don't do it because we just expect it. But you can't get commitment unless you actually ask for commitment. How could you create a thing that makes it like this pin that would allow people to make more commitments? Here's the thing. If you write it down, it turns out in other studies, it happens. Now this is not The Secret. Have you read the book The Secret? Where if you read it by the law of attraction and you imagine yourself wearing the beautiful necklace that you saw in the window, and you imagine it and suddenly it's around your neck, that's crap that doesn't happen. It takes money or a credit card. The twist is, if you create these memory files, and you make that commitment real by actually writing it down, the likelihood of it happening goes up multiple percentages. So right now, I want you to write down 1, 2, or 3 things you will commit to do. You added something last time. What are you going to commit to do this year, 2020? Because by the way, resolutions only work 8% to 50% of the time, depending on the study. Commitments work so much more because they become real. I'm doing the rowing. By the way, that doesn't mean you're not easy on yourself when you don't get on the machine. It means you have to have this thing in you that is real, that's a memory file that I can switch to. So write down 1, 2, or 3 commitments right now. 2020, what are you doing? For surely. No matter what, no one's going to stop you. And if it's not real and you can't get there today, it's just part of your homework. So, give you a minute. Someone give me a commitment. What are you doing? No matter what. Read every day. Love it. What else? Stop worrying about things you can't control. Okay. Here's an introduction to quick switching. It shows up, and this thing that you can't control, it won't go monkey brain. You're stuck on a short loop. What do? Right? What's your favorite shape?
Triangle.
Right? But you do, and you've done enough of those in the mindful time otherwise that you're actually able to use that and then switch back to whatever else is more important in the next moment. Quick switching, we'll talk about that in a second. What else are you going to commit to? Losing weight, right? Or shall we, we're going to put that positive instead of losing. How are you going to say it?
Getting healthier.
Getting healthier, eating more vegetables. That literally, when it comes to health, people don't make commitments because we think it's going to happen naturally. But like, it's what are you actually specifically going to do? You have to name it. You have to write it down on paper. Give me another one. Looking at grad school. Love it. What else?
Drinking more water.
Drinking more water. Do you see how easy these things are? But if you say, I'm going to do it, you will get on the rower. You will drink the water. You will change your patterns. And next time I see you, how many pounds?
When are you coming back?
3 months.
3 months? 5 pounds.
5 pounds. Do you hear it? He just made a commitment in a group. Now guess what we're going to do next time I come? We're going to ask. Right? We're going to ask. Now by the way, if he does not show up next time, someone have him on text message, right? But this is what commitment is. But you see how you can use this with kids in the classroom? What are you going to do no matter what? Give them the choice to say what they personally are going to do. Don't say you have to, because that's a rule. But if you ask them to commit, it changes their entire memory file. The things you just put down on paper, you have a better chance of doing than any New Year's resolution and keeping it. And there's actually now a chance that it might happen. Turn the page. The third act is now how you use this when the values defined, the goals defined, and the commitments defined aren't enough. If those memory files, you can't do breath work and switch to them, you need to be able to quick switch creatively. Quick switching, write this down, is stepping back and then focusing on what I care about most in the moment. Stepping back and then focusing on what I care about most in the moment. This comes from Hijacked by Your Brain, and what Dr. Ford realized is that if someone was dealing with traumatic stress, like so many of our kiddos and so many of our families and some of us, and it's the parental comment, is that you have to be able to step back and switch to one thing at a time to be able to get your brain back online. It is a theory of everything that I'm introducing today, and we'll keep working on it over time. Just an introduction today, you're not supposed to grasp it. It's just the preview. And the fun part is, remember where your stress level is right now? You can measure it. When you do those 3 things together, we call it SOS. And it was a way of self-checking if you were in the moment and if you were turning down your alarm function. What I realized is that for mostly healthy people, that's us, if you're able to quick switch between what you're going to step back doing and what you care about in the moment, suddenly everything changes. Now, in psychology, they call this task switching when you do it not on purpose. So some of you are on the phones, not wrong, right? You're going back and forth between listening to me and the phone. You're just naturally multitasking. Remember the study from before, if you're multitasking, you're going to perform less well. That doesn't mean it's not possible, it's called task switching. But when you do it on purpose, like every 20 minutes at your computer screen, looking away to reset your brain, like in a conversation where someone pisses you off and you look away and then switch to your core values, that's called cognitive shifting. And I just didn't like the name for it, so we call it quick switching. So when the athlete on the LPGA Tour feels stressed or like she made a bad decision, she choose a lemon. The lemon is the step back, and then she switches to whatever shot she needs to hit. Some classic examples of this are, I worked with a mayor in his re-election campaign, and when he'd go mountain biking, he had a tendency to fall off his bike because he was so distracted. And so his step back move is if he noticed himself distracted, he would unclip his pedals and decide what was most important, riding his bike and going back to the office. Notice the quick switch. Step off the pedals, decide. Airline pilots, when the engines stop working, what is their quick switch? Pull out the flight manual, right? And then check the engines. Then go to the checklist, then check the other engine. Go to the checklist. The checklist, pulling it out is the step back, and then doing the checks is what's most important at that moment to keep the flight going. There's a wonderful author named Annie Lamott, one of the best spiritual autobiographers. Before she starts to write every day, she lights a candle. She lights that candle to clear the space, and then she goes to writing, which is most important. So what I want you to start doing in your life is looking for these places where you're already quick switching, and then I want you to figure out how you're going to do it, because here are the forms of quick switching. Always stepping back, and there's two ways to step back. Notice and be mindful. So the thing I'm adding to all the mindful techniques we did before is noticing. Right now, how would you describe your energy level? Give me some words. Tired, low, drained. Anybody curious right now? Anybody? Yes. You're curious, right? So even though you've had a long day of school and this is the end of all this talk and I'm working hard to keep you in the room, like the reality is you know what your feeling is. How do you think the kids feel at the end of the day? No matter how good you are. Just noticing that and then switching back to the goal or the value or the commitment changes everything. You can do things you couldn't do otherwise. But you can also quick switch by stepping back, noticing or doing any form of mindfulness. And you can switch to what's most important right now. What's most important to me with you right now? Finishing well, right? Just keeping the energy up for 10 more minutes, right? Just doing anything I can to keep you in the room so that you realize that you are the people who are going to help them believe. Notice how I paused and then went to that phrase and slowly said it to keep you being the people who can help them believe. These are quick switches and those are classic examples. Oh, the second form. So the first form is notice and be mindful, different kinds of stepping back. The second form is what you do that's most important. And there are three options. Be mindful again, right? So you do your breath work, and you still feel like crap. You know what you do in the next moment? More breath work, right? That's a quick switch. You go from doing breath work to counting work. That's a quick switch. The second option is remember. What three files did I give you to remember? Values, goals, commitments. You have these files. You could also use visualizations. You could also use the places on the internet that has the resources you need. Like, these are all out there. And the final thing is you can add things to the moment. So, more on that in a second. Turn the page. Fill this first two out for me. You know what? We don't have time. We're just going to do the first one, and then you can do this as exercises in your teams. You get angry at uncertainty. What's your quick switch going to be? We'll just do that first one. You get angry at uncertainty. So for me, when I feel uncertain, I stop and I ask a question. That's my quick switch. What's yours going to be? When you get uncertain about the future and about change, what are you going to do over the next 6 months? Write it down. How are you going to step back? That could be noticing or a form of mindfulness. And then are you going to do more mindfulness? Or are you going to add something? Or are you going to use your memory file? Write it down. Someone give me an example of what you're going to do. How? Silent. And then what are you going to do? Go to one of the portfolio thoughts. Which one would you go to right now? Which value, goal, or commitment would you go to? What's that?
My dog.
Your dog, right? Wait a second. You're in the middle of a stressful situation, gonna, do a little step back, and then you're gonna think about your dog. You know why that makes things better? The coolest study that I found around quick switching when I started doing this research is that people who believe that they are above average, not great, not miraculous, above average, who are put in front of a live audience, so everybody hiss at me right now, that was being mean to them, like in front of a room being mean to them, and they were asked to do math in their head. So someone give me a really hard math problem. Square root of pi. I am screwed, right? But the person who believes that they are above average, given that particular memory file, that particular equation, would have a lower heart rate and lower blood pressure. because they knew how to quick switch. In that moment, they would pause and then they would go, well, I'm pretty smart, I'll figure this out. Because they had that self-efficacy, they had that belief in themselves. So you have to have your memory files so thick that you can switch to them when uncertainty shows up. Someone give me another example of what you're going to do. How are you going to step back, notice or form of mindfulness? What are you going to switch to? Add something, memory file. Uncertainty shows up, what are you going to do?
Breathe and then accept. Like, that's out of control.
Breathe and then accept it. Is acceptance your value, your goal, or your commitment? It might be all three. So here's the kicker. Paul Tillich realized that everybody has ultimate concerns. And these are better than quick switches. These are the memory files that are so important to you, you don't even need to reset to get to them. They just show up. They are values, goals, and commitments all at the same time. You know what 8 billion brains is? My ultimate concern. I just want you to know more. And I keep working on that every day. Does that mean I'm happy every day? Well, I'm pretty happy most of the time. But when I am stressed, it's the thing to turn to. Does that changing, that quick switch, does that instantly make you feel better? Not instantly, but it gives you the thing you're going to focus on so that the stress can cascade out of your body. Give me one more example of how you're going to quick switch when you face uncertainty. Have a shot at tequila. Oh, we went there. Is tequila a step back move? Yes. Can the next shot be the most important thing to you? Yes. But it's going to turn the alarm down and it's going to come roaring back like a toddler. So let me ask the question a different way. How are you going to step back next time you face uncertainty? What are you going to do?
Pray.
Pray. Love it. What else?
Walk. Breathe.
Walk. Breathe. What else?
Watch what happens.
Watch what happens. Just watch. Talk to someone. You have this power. And then you get to switch to these very interesting things. What do I do when the goals and the commitments and the values don't work? 2 techniques. Name and reframe. Write this down. Name and reframe. This is a super powerful thing with kiddos. To name and reframe is to name the emotion you're feeling and then state it differently. So remember the Harvard Medical School study Harvard Business School study where people go and they're going to give a complicated talk and they're really nervous and they say, I'm fine. How'd they do? Terrible, because they denied the emotion. But if you say, I'm nervous, and then you switch in the next moment and say, I'm excited, everybody did better. So if you're actually able to name your emotion, what are the 5 big emotions from last time? Fear, anger, sadness. That's the one good one, joy or happiness. Gas station sushi. Disgust and surprise, right? All you have to do is name those emotions and then make them a good thing in the next moment, and it changes everything. And then the other thing you can do, write this down, even though it's in the next example, additive theory. Name and reframe is number 1. Number 2 is additive theory. You know what additive theory is? When the next moment sucks, when you're dealing with uncertainty or a yelling parent or you're not believing right now, you know what you can add to the next moment? Kindness. Write it down. Compassion. Not empathy, that's work. Compassion, which means just caring about where the other person is. What about gratitude? Anybody do a gratitude journal on a regular thing? I'm running out of words, sorry. Right? Just actually say what you're grateful for. A high five. Do you know how many kids don't get touched at home? And I don't mean this in the uncomfortable way that could have gone. Right? They do not have intimate contact with someone who loves them in a safe way that is never going to be traumatic. You know what you can do? A high five. Right? Like the fist bump. There are ways to actually change the moment. And here's the most important one. You know what you can add to the next moment? Your belief. In the next moment, take a breath and add your belief that this situation is going to be okay, that these folks can get better, that health can be added into the system, that we can get creative with how to help them be more mindful. Oh, and lastly, someone asked me last time, how do I improve my memory of how to quick switch and how to do my brain health stuff? The first thing you have to do is actually do the brain health stuff. So make your commitments to do this more often. The second thing you have to do, write it down. Flashcards, sticky notes, journaling, You can do it on your phone if you want. You know what happens as final tidbits when you put a sticky note on a fundraising letter? You get better responses. You know what will happen if you want your kids to change? Put a sticky note on their paper saying, I believe in you. It will change it. Don't do it every time because then they won't believe it. But it changes everything. So the first thing you have to do is do your regular brain health stuff. The second thing you have to do is write about it or record it. The third thing you have to do, remember, your brain is plastic. And the behaviors that you do over and over again change you to be the kind of person who, when everyone else has given up, you believe. Thank you for your attention. I owe you 5 minutes.
Before you leave, just so you're aware of Paris, so that we can give you the right amount of time. Either door you can exit, make sure you sign out. So make sure you sign out Paris and we can credit you your time. So hang on 1 second.
I'm thinking of a couple minutes. I don't get to see you all together very often, so I just thought I would take a very quick moment to say that when I met Jon last summer in June, the thing that impressed me so much was how congruent his speeches were with my experience in arts and music, and that the arts and music are the original performance-based education. You either perform things or you can't. But writing is also an art, and reading becomes an art when we write about reading, and we talk about our thoughts and feelings with others. Math becomes an art when we solve complex problems at the very edge of our humanity. All of this will do nothing for you if you don't pick one thing and practice it. I don't care what that one thing is from today. I chose to do yoga every 2 days for 10 minutes after talking to Jon. And he's right, it made a big difference. I want you to pick one thing and do it really, really well, or all of this professional development is a waste of time. Doesn't mean you don't think about the other things and do them. Practice one for 21 or 22 days, get it down, and then choose another one. Because if you don't, you leave here feeling really great today, but you don't really do anything with it. So my encouragement to you is to pick something and really practice it for the next 21 days. Tell a partner what it is that you're going to do, and then check in with each other in 20 to 21 days. That's really what's going to make this work for you. And certainly I would encourage you to pick one for yourself and maybe one to teach your children at school, right, your kids. So I just wanted you to think about how am I going to apply this to make my life better. The best way is to just practice one thing at a time and get really good at it, okay? So I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and thanks a lot for being here today. Can you give Jon another